So I have not been candid at all about my love for Marvel Legends and all things Marvel Legends. It kind of spawns from my 90s miss not getting the Toy Biz figures because I was too old for toys. And so I kind of gave up collecting toys for a couple years, and those were like the Toy Biz Marvel years. And then got back into toys, but it was too late. I had missed out. So I decided with Marvel Legends I was going to kind of be all in with the sort of areas I really loved, like Spider-Man and X-Men and Fantastic Four. It has been very fascinating how much the prices have changed. And people have been talking about this, the price value, what we get in the box, Build-A-Figures being replaced by, you know, Secret Wars shields or comic books meaning a piece of plastic with a sticker. So I put together a little video here looking at the history of Marvel Legends price points. And we're going to conclude it by looking at some of the factors that have affected this to kind of really understand. So let's take a deep dive and jump in at the history of Marvel Legends price points and price value. Let's take a look. All right, so we're going to start with 2001. These figures were $6.99. No one had ever seen articulation like this before. And they came with like a huge base and a clamshell. To say this was a breakthrough toy, especially at $6.99 when Star Wars was $4.99, amazing. They only went up for $1 by the time they got to their second year. And that was when it became Marvel Legends official. The first year was just Spider-Man Classics, but it was basically the same exact concept with the success. That was kind of like the prototype of Marvel Legends. And that Toad was meant for a different toy line. It got shuffled off. But, we were getting Doctor Doom, and we were getting Wolverine, and we were getting Iron Man repainted as Magneto or Magneto. I prefer Magneto. But $7.99, still a pretty good deal. 2003, price stays the same. And this was the year for Toy Biz where they really just started pumping it out. I mean, a ton of waves. We started getting variants of characters. We started getting larger characters, not just the Hulk, but, Hulk Buster and Apocalypse. And we got vehicles, vehicles packed with figures for $7.99. All right, we still have a year of enjoying that. And what was crazy was for $7.99, we also got our first Build-A-Figure, which started the giant Build-A-Figure program. I mean, not as big as, HasLab Galactus, but we got a Galactus and a Sentinel and a Giant Man and a Mojo and all sorts of things. So yeah, I'm just showing like all the figures for one of this was the very first Build-A-Figure was Galactus. And so yeah, you got a giant chunk and a figure. 2005 though took its first sort of significant price jump to $9.99. So, we've gone up $3 since it launched in 2001 over the course of 3 years. So it's about $1 a year, more or less. We're still getting figures and we're still getting Build-A-Figures and lots of paint ops. I mean, a ridiculous amount of paint ops and washes. I mean, Toy Biz spared no expense. Part of it was because they weren't paying their tooling bill, but that's a whole other story. All right, when Hasbro grabbed the license in 2006, they kept with that $9.99 price point, at least initially. But there was a definite downgrade in terms of deco and accessories. Figures were really only coming with the Build-A-Figure piece at this point, even customized lines. And while the first few sculpts were left over from Toy Biz, Hasbro started doing them themselves, and their sculpting team, at least based on sales and the fans, wasn't up to par. 2007, the price jumped up. But Hasbro did have a clever way of justifying this, and that was putting out the Fin Fang Foom wave, where not only were you getting giant Build-A-Figure pieces and a giant overall Build-A-Figure spread over 2 waves, but the figures themselves were a lot larger. So it was to try to stave off that burn of a $3 price jump. So we stuck with that for at least a little while. At least Hasbro's run remained at $12.99, even if it wasn't getting mainline distribution and only getting Walmart and Target waves by the end of Target's initial run. So, still about fairly priced with the competition. DC Universe Classics sort of mirrored the pricing. And then in 2012, when it returned, it got another price bump, this time to $14.99. Again, staying on par with competitive product. And we were getting much better paint and accessories this time. So whatever Hasbro did, whether it was increasing the price to what they needed in order to include those, and they had to go up again in the next year. But it meant we were going to still get the same deco quality that we were getting more or less in the Toy Biz days, or at least better than compared to Hasbro's, original relaunch. But we would get Build-A-Figures replaced by much smaller Build-A-Figures as a way of keeping it at that $15.99 price point. Characters like Puck and Hitmonkey, and eventually just generic stands. Again, this was to keep at the price point so that they could continue to put the quality in the figures without raising price. But that was going to all change in 2014 when we got the price point that would last the longest, $19.99, your $20 figure. And at this price point, we got more figures than any other. So maybe, compared to the $7.99 Toy Biz, was one of the only ones that also gave us a lot at the same price. But yeah, this went on for about 7 years that we got $19.99. And I think what Hasbro did by jumping from $15.99 all the way to $19.99 and skipping over the prices in the middle, well, I think that was a deliberate way of maintaining quality. And over the years, I'm sure their margin and their operating profit eroded slowly, but eventually it did. And that's why it got to the point that they couldn't hold that $19.99 price point. But because it was available for so many years, it definitely, looking back from a business perspective, I would put some, money on Hasbro getting better margins in 2015 and say 16 at that 1995 price point. But as prices started to increase, I'm sure it got eroded, over time. But I think it was the right move because it kept them. Would we have rather seen just, it going up $1 every year? Maybe that would have been a way, but I think that would have upset more fans. I think people felt there was a good $20 value at this point, and they were willing to pay it. And I'm not saying Hasbro was, raking in the dollars on these early 1999 releases. I'm just saying I think that by the time they got to the point that they had to change from 1999 to 22 and then 25, that it got to the point that it was just costing so much to make these figures. And a lot of toy companies didn't see that, coming. It was really a bit of a surprise. I remember in 2017, 2018, prices just really started to soar. But at the $20 price point, we're still getting a lot of deco. We're getting washes, we're getting accessories, we're getting multiple heads, all things that Hasbro didn't offer with their initial offerings in 2006 and 2007. So I was very happy with the $19.99 price point. I even bought multiples of figures at this price point. So, and again, the bulk of my personal Marvel Legends collection, and I'm sure most of all of yours, comes from this era, comes from the, call it the 1999 era, just because so many figures were made, and a big part of that was that they were now tying Marvel Legends into theatrical releases. So every time there was content like a Deadpool movie, you would get a wave. Maybe it wasn't movie accurate, but it was themed to that character if they didn't have the rights. If they had the rights, like with the MCU movies, like Infinity War, well, yeah, you were just going to get those figures straight up. But between the movie-based lines that also included comic book characters, to the fact that both X-Men and Spider-Man at this point in the line were justifying their own waves without content. And you would have never seen this in the beginning of Hasbro's run. But it was pretty cool that, yeah, Spider-Man and the X-Men had both kind of proven themselves. And we now could get waves that didn't have content support, were just based on the, shall we say, love of the character. Of course, it always helped when there was a Deadpool movie, or the reason we got a Black Panther wave was because they were Black Panther movie. I don't know if we would have gotten all these Black Panther figures if there had never been a movie. He went from being an obscure character to, an A-lister pretty quick. Then again, Iron Man did too. Well, Captain Marvel, maybe not so much. But again, we're seeing, I think, at this point in the line, the peak of accessories, the peak of deco. We're not seeing raw plastic used at all. We're seeing everything decoed. We're seeing characters with a lot of tooling, and characters are coming with not just Build-A-Figure pieces, but they're also coming with accessories, which is a big deal because, again, like I noted, Hasbro cut a lot of that in 2006 and 2007. But yeah, just look at the piece count. And again, at $20, it was pretty easy to justify getting sometimes multiples of these characters because, yeah, you're like $20. And, that was way before, the sort of Biden era inflation or the Trump era inflation or whoever you want to blame the inflation on. I'm not going to get political, but we have had a lot of inflation the last few years. So obviously, and we're going to talk about that at the very end and what the effect of inflation has been on the line, but there's a lot of other factors. Still, it is remarkable that the 1995 price point held as long as it did. I think it had a lot of positive effects on the line because, as I said, there were characters I was buying two of. There were also characters that I would have never bought that I was like, yeah, I could spend $20 on that. But it's amazing how once you go over that price point, there is this psychological something that just says, ugh, can't do that. So it's like, hold on to 1995 as long as you can, or 1999, as long as you can, because once you lose that, not only were we going to start to lose quality, but there was just this psychological break that said, I can't do that. I can't justify getting these figures, even though it's only like $3 more, $5 more. But, there's a lot of psychology that goes into price points. I mean, just look at McDonald's and their dollar menu. Does that even exist anymore? I don't know. But the point is, price points are not done in a closed, locked shadow room. They are done very open with spreadsheets and with reviews and finance and marketing. And it's a very, very careful decision. You want to mock, or rather match, I should say match the competition, while at the same time, you want to drive your margin requirements for the company. All right, in 2021, we got that jump, $22. It felt like, wasn't as fun. We're still at this price point getting our accessories, and we have yet to see the deco reductions that are coming. But jumping from $19.99 to $22.99 was a psychological blow, shall we call. I just couldn't justify buying a lot of figures that normally I would have not. Well, there were characters like I would just pass on because they weren't part of my list, if you will. Like I made a list of very specific characters I wanted, and back when it was $19.99, there were many that I was just like having a good week, had a good day at work or whatever happened, and felt like treating myself. For some reason, going up $3 just psychologically, I know I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's really interesting to see that. And, again, you see this in every industry with all sorts of products from luxury to basic. So we got 2 years out of the $22.99 price point, which really is $23. And again, being really picky, there are a lot of figures I probably would have picked up, and again, I would have picked up more than one. But we did still see the same strategy, which is what kind of saved Marvel Legends, which, is theming them to each movie. Thor, Doctor Strange, etc., and giving us characters from that universe. Of course, X-Men and Spider-Man continue to press their luck and deliver us some waves without content because, damn it, the X-Men are awesome and Spider-Man is awesome and they continue to sell. So, hey. All right, well, this next year is going to be interesting because not only are we getting our biggest price ever, we are locking our figures behind a closed box. So, yeah, this is a whole issue. Basically, a couple hundred people were polled at a Target and asked, hey, what would you think if, we went with more environmentally friendly packaging? And it's a very kind of leading poll from what I've been told. The questions were, were basically, environmental packaging is good. You're pro-environment, right? Well, yeah. So you'd like it if we gave them in closed boxes? Sure. Well, luckily, by the end of the year, we finally started to revert back to the open box because you don't want to hide a toy. When you hide a toy in a closed box, it reads as an activity toy or a puzzle to parents. So, yeah, I am so glad this barely lasted a year. I think maybe 11 months. Almost made it a year. So, still, at that price point and hiding them, not a good year. 2024 continued to actually bring us a lot of robust figures, but this was the year we really started seeing some cost reductions. We started seeing raw plastic used more and more. Occasionally we would see accessories with deco, but that was more the exception than the rule. while there was still a lot of tooling being used, you definitely saw a sort of lowering of quality. And then even moving into this year in 2025, we're still at that $24, $25 price point. Amazon's kind of gone up $1, but at least we're still getting Build-A-Figure. Who knows how long? All right. So looking at the figure retail price trend, here you can see the full life of the brand from 2001 to 25 mapped out. Here it's broken out by price point. You can see how long each price point lasted. Obviously, 1999 was by far the longest. Now, looking at it versus inflation, they definitely don't track the same. And there's a reason for that, and that's because Marvel Legends have gone up in price for way more reasons than inflation. If it was inflation alone, they should be at about $12.50, based on them being $6.99 in 2001. But as I said, Marvel Legends is affected by a lot more. Inflation, shipping, accessories complexity, licensing and royalties have skyrocketed, raw materials, and production and labor costs have skyrocketed. And this is what's driven the cost. It's not companies being greedy or charging more to pad their pockets. It's all because of labor costs and royalties. It used to be at 7% in 2001. Now they're at like 22%. So there you go. For every dollar you pay, it used to be 7 cents, and now it's almost a quarter. And that is a brief history of the Marvel Legends price point increases and values. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing with others. It's the best way to support this channel. Thanks so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.